Hello everyone, it's David, and today I'd like to show you the process that I'm going through, kind of both, because it's a tough little process. But I am rejuvenating some donated underglazes. Now these came from a gentleman who passed away, and his son donated them to us in a big box. And I really want to honor this anonymous donor by rejuvenating these old underglazes and trying to give them a new life. So our goal today is to hydrate, mix, clean them up, preserve as much as we can, and maybe even put out a few test tiles. We'll see. Stay tuned. So anyone who's worked in a pottery studio for any amount of time knows that studios tend to accumulate little bits of this and that. Little samples of glaze, little bits of underglaze, different kinds of clay and stains. They just seem to accumulate in the back of our shelves. When I saw that these were doing that, I knew they had to be rescued. We got a huge box of these, and this is a typical example of one of them. It's by a company called Trans. It's a one-stroke translucent underglaze, T2 Rose Pink. Now I have no idea about this company. I'm sure they're fantastic. Potters out there, please leave a comment if you've used these Trans one-stroke underglazes before. As I'm fairly new to the ceramics game, I'm learning as I go, so I hope that you will take these blogs in the spirit that they're made, and we'll learn together. Any potters with experience with underglazes? I got a few to consider. So here we have another example of these donated underglazes. This looks like it's foliage green, one stroke, but the label is pretty degraded. The cap is a mess. So I really don't have any idea who made this. So again, please comment below if you know the origin of this forest green one-stroke underglaze. Now let's crack this thing open and take a look. The cap is pretty rusted on, so first thing I'm going to do is try to clean that up a little bit. Using I have some 100 grit sandpaper that I'm just going to kind of try to get a little of that rust off. I don't want to destroy the paint on the cap if possible. Just kind of knock down the visible rust. Don't want to get any of that into our underglaze. Then I have a little bit of, I'm trying to do this one-handed while holding the camera, so it's a little tricky, but I have a little bit of, I want to say steel wool, but it's obviously not steel wool, right? It's copper or brass wool. I don't know. It's a copper scrubber. I'm trying to knock down some of the rust. See, the caps have so degraded that once you knock the rust off, they leak a bit, which is okay. That's what we're here to do. Fix these and see if we can honor this guy's legacy. You know, art happens to people. People don't happen to art. And I think as artists, we are in also in a bit of, we carry a bit of responsibility for looking at the preservation of our art, whether that's writing. I happen to be a composer, so I love to teach people to read music because I believe it's an important thing that shouldn't die away. Same thing with these little underglazes. I feel it's our responsibility to make it work. Well, alrighty, I cleaned as much as I could of the cap and got it open. You'll see it's not in great shape, but we'll see what we can do. We need to clean the cap first. I'm going to do that by running it under some water and just trying to get all of the gunk off. All right, so after just a little bit of cleaning, it looks a lot better. It doesn't really, can't see that it says anything if it ever did, but hey, at least it won't give you typhus when you open it next time. Let's take a look at the underglaze itself. Now, because the lid was so faulty and caked, I couldn't really shake it. It's not completely dead or dehydrated, but it's not looking great. I'm going to add some water, just a couple of drops. My advice whenever you're doing, see, that's complete uncharted territory in there, folks. What the hell? So, when facing a situation like this in life or in the studio, go slow. So, now that I've cleaned the lid up, and I feel like the seal I can make on the jar will be a little sturdier, I'm going to add some water and give it some shakes. Some water here. And I'm going to use a little dropper here, and I'm just going to go slow, add a couple of drops at a time. Let that focus in. Hey, first blog, I need a tripod, right? I'll get one. But I added a few drops of purified water into the jar, and yes, that is a baby ear sucker syringe, and I use it. It's a very highly specialized tool that I use for these circumstances because the studio is next to a CVS, and that's all they had. So I've added a few drops into the jar. Let's put that lid on. See if I can do this one-handed and still hold the camera. Great success. All right, so now we got nothing on the outside, right? We've got some liquid on the inside with the mystery green goo. Apparently it is for foliage. Foliage. Is that how you say it? Foliage, not foliage. Okay. Yeah. Let's see what happens when we open her up. I need to put this camera somewhere. Okay. Well, now that we have put our water in and I have MacGyvered some sort of tripod, we can give this guy a shake here and see what we got. Ooh, she chunky. Oof. Yeah, she real chunky. Let's look. All right. So as you can see, maybe, we're going to be adding some more water. So I have my specialized pipette, if you will. I will, if you won't. My pipette there, sans baby. Put my lid back on, get that seal in there, and we're going to give that another little shake and kind of try to break up some of those chunks. All right, now we're cooking. We're not there yet, but we went from disgusting to only kind of gross. Hey, that's an improvement. Baby steps, right? So I think our water content is just about right. And I'm going to let this soak and hydrate. And then I'll give it another shake, another stir, adjust the water if necessary, and we should be able to use this bad boy. Okay, so this is where a typical YouTuber would probably put in some sort of disco montage. Maybe shake, shake, shake your booty, or something cute like that. But it's YouTube and you already know. So we're shaking. The good news is I think this guy is just about ready. Looking much better. I've repeated the process about, I don't know, a dozen times. You can see the little collection back there that I already have. The interesting news is I only have these many more left to do. So, I'm going to repeat the process that I did on our foliage green there with these. Clean the caps off, hydrate the underglaze inside, and then we'll be ready to make test tiles. So I finally cleaned one of the bottles enough that actually could read the lid. I don't know if the lighting is right, but it says a genie in every bottle once I cleaned it up. And then I thought, oh my God, look how many wishes I have. What? So in this batch of glaze, underglazes, that I'm restoring, we got a few of these mystery bottles. It is blue. That's all I know. So let's restore it, which I've done, and put it on a test tile and try to figure out what the heck it is. Okay, so now that we have some of these completed, I'd like to show you the rest of the process. The next thing is going to be to test them, and for that we use these test tiles here. They're just roughly made cookie cutter white porcelain greenware, and you'll notice they have a texture so that you can determine what the glaze does when it encounters the texture. And these really important. That's a really important thing for underglazes. So what I think I'm going to do, since these are such small bottles, is probably not try to cover the entire tile, but rather just one side, and then I can dip the glaze that is going to be the clear and a little bit that is going to be birch white, so we can test out how they do under clear glazes. For my first tile, I'm going to be using that bottle of mystery blue. I've labeled it as blue 2. We're going to be applying that to this tile and getting it ready to fire. So I have to get some instruments together, some materials. I'll come back and we'll test this thing out. All right, so step one, I'm going to take, this is an underglaze pencil that you can write on, and write on clay and it will fire. It works, it's kind of an underglaze itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn the tile over to the side I don't plan to put the color on, and I'm going to label it B2. Ooh, that's a terrible sound. Oh, goodness gracious. Ooh. B, 2. Oh, wow. God, here's to never doing that again. Woof. That was rough. Gotta use some pressure, folks, or you're gonna get that nail on a chalkboard feeling, and that's awful. All right, so I have that labeled as B2. I can dust off the excess there, and that's going to fire just like an underglaze. So I have our mystery underglaze here. I'm going to open the cap up and give it a quick stir just to make sure. There we go. Whoops, come on. No escapees. These little bottles are not convenient for stirring. They shake well though, sometimes. Unless you have to reconstitute them, which is what I've been doing, and that takes just straight up manual labor. I mean, you know what I mean. Manual labor. I didn't dig a ditch, but I had to shake the thing. Okay, I shook it. For me, that's manual labor. You know, whatever. All right, I'm gonna give this one final shake now that we got it all declumped. Rinse that off. So, where'd my B2 go? All right, so we should be combined. I noticed that my B2 came off, so I am going to remark that with this Sharpie here. Sharpies are usually pretty good on glass, unless you get them wet before they're fully dry, which is what I did. Okay. I have a little paintbrush, a little 3/4 Craft Smart paintbrush, brand new. And I'm just going to try to get in there and find some of that stuff. Let's see what I can do with it. All right, now it's not an elegant painting technique because I'm not an elegant guy, but hopefully it can be nice and thorough. Still a little chunky monkey. We'll let that go for now. Now, am I going to be completely anal retentive and, you know, clean up my edges, make sure the other side is completely clean and legible, you know, clean out the little hole there so that it doesn't get plugged up? I mean, come on. How anal? Of course I'm going to do all those things. If you're new to the channel, then you knew the answer to that question before I even finished asking it. Yes. So we need to make sure, because we want our sample to be clean, that we clean off our edges, right? I'm just doing it with a damp sponge. And that way we can see how the glaze, we can test if it runs, and we can test how cleanly you can put it up to a line. All right, so you've got our B2 on the back. We're cleaned, we're glazed. Oh, there's a little bit of mucky muck there, and can't have that. Sometimes that's the worst part about making ceramics that hang, is If that little hole there gets clogged up with glaze, you are not able to use the hole. That's the best I can do on YouTube and not get kicked off. So there's our B2, our mystery underglaze. We'll get that in the kiln and we'll see the results at the end of the video. Okay, so as you know, these were underglazes. I have 20 test tiles here. Since they're underglazes, I'm going to put a top coat on them, but only on half of the tile, because I want to see what it looks both covered and covered, textured and smooth. I want, when I go to pick an underglaze, I know what to expect, because, you know, as any potter really, there it is, as any potter really can tell you, when you're dealing with dirt and fire, pigments, metal, results can vary. So we want to know what to expect. So I'm going to have some super clear glaze here, and I'm going to go in for half, 2, 3, and pull it out. Now this is a really thin glaze, so it doesn't look very heavy, but that's okay. All we need it to do is oxidize enough to keep, to show us the true colors of our underglaze. Now I might, once that dries a bit, dip it a second time. Now I'm going to do it with the other 20.